Hello again, and it's Mac, and I'm back with part 2 of my playthrough of Colin McRae Rally. This stage is now set in Greece, and I didn't really play this stage until doing this Let's Play. It wasn't included in the original demo disc that I would have had, that only had levels from New Zealand. But the Greek level's pretty cool. Not too sure how much it actually looks like Greece, because I've never actually been to the country myself. But I was feeling a bit more settled. Since I did the first 3 stages in sort of one run, so by sort of stage 2 I was a bit more confident with the game, and I'm not really showing it too well in these early corners, just taking them a bit too rashly, maybe you would say. But nevertheless, without spoiling things, I got through the Greece stage no problem, and the Australia stage. It was only really Sweden where I first started to have a little bother, and thankfully I think the audio this time will come through. So you will be able to hear the audio of co-driver Nicky Grist, who's the lad giving me directions, well, more information about the upcoming parts of the track to watch out for, what turns to watch out for. And that was, as I said in the first video, one of my favourite things about Colin McRae, is that it kind of guided you a bit more than other racing games. It kind of just put you on the track and said, on you go, things like Gran Turismo. And I remember my dad trying to kind of teach me, the driving theory, if you will. You try and brake into the corner and drive out and maintain as much speed as possible. And it's almost doubtless that I'm probably a bit better versed with these kind of games now at 37 than I would have been when I first played it, age 12 or whatever. 12, 11 when it first came out. Or certainly when the demo was first available, when I probably would have took quite a bit of practice slinging myself around these corners. So yeah, it's just a nice smooth drive. This stage is not too difficult from what I remember, this entire kind of Greek setting. Kind of, I mean, it makes sense. The first few stages are going to build you up, and it's stage 4 when you go to Sweden, and you have to deal with deep snow at the side of the road that can really slow you down. That's when things get kind of problematic. So yeah, I'm just making sure. Yeah, this is the Greek one. Yeah, because it does have a kind of Australian look about it. Although I'm not sure how you would really classify a Greek look, other than possibly lots of antiquated buildings and coastline, given that Greece is a largely island country. And it'd be good to know some facts about Greece. I didn't actually realise until today that it's officially called the Hellenic Republic. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And it's a country situated in southeast Europe, situated on the southern tip of the Balkan Peninsula. And it shares land borders with Albania, North Macedonia, who I have a friend called Big Mac I play Dota with, from Bulgaria, Turkey, and the Aegean Sea. It's got the longest coastline on the Mediterranean basin and features thousands of islands. It consists of 9 traditional geographic regions. Now, I don't know what this is, the 9 traditional geographic regions of Greece. So let's read these out. A bit of a geography lesson here, mid sort of race. You've got the Aegean Islands, Central Greece, Crete, Epirus, the Ionian Islands, Macedonia, Peloponnese, Thessaly, and Thrace. I'm going to guess that's how you're meant to pronounce those names. Has a population of approximately 10.5 million people, which is kind of big actually. Greece is a relatively large country. And you'll just see I get through that first stage no bother, and we'll move on to stage 2 in Greece, which is location Stagiria. I don't know if that's actually a place. Stagiria is an ancient city in Greece, so yeah, these are based on actual locations, even if I think the tracks themselves are fictional. Athens is the largest city in Greece, followed by Thessaloniki and Patras. I think I've heard Patras before, but I've never heard of Thessaloniki. Greece is, of course, considered the cradle of Western civilization, the birthplace of democracy, philosophy, literature, historiography, political science, scientific and mathematical principles, theatre, and, of course, quite famously, the Olympic Games. So, yeah, it's got a 93% Christianity, Greek Orthodox, 3% other Christian, 4% no religion, 2% Islam, 1% other. The Hellenese or Hellenic Republic. I had never heard of that until today. So yeah, there's many sort of things associated with Greece, many kind of discoveries. Let's just have a quick little read while we're watching the power sliding around the dirt tracks here. So they're known for inventing quite a lot of things such as aerodynamics, the alarm clock, alchemy, algebra, the analog computer, the aqueduct. Of course, aqueducts, water transportation devices, basically the forebearer to modern plumbing, I suppose you would call. I mean, the Wikipedia page, the oldest bathtub was found on the island of Crete. That's pretty crazy. There are many. What exactly is a caliper? I've heard that name before. Is it some kind of surgical instrument? Measure the dimensions of an object. It's basically a very detailed ruler. The catapult, apparently, invention in Greece. Cement. So, I mean, we've got a lot to thank the Greeks for. There's a lot of items here that... the Claw of Archimedes. What on earth is that? An iron hand, an ancient weapon devised by Archimedes to defend the seaward portion of Syracuse' city wall against amphibious assault. I'll try and actually, when I'm editing the video here, I'll try and drop in some wee pictures of this thing. This Claw Archimedes thing, this looks pretty crazy. But, democracy, yeah, we've heard that one before. The discus throw, well, I mean, that goes hand in hand with being part of the Olympics. The elevator, ethics. Greece invented ethics and fascism, apparently. Well, that kind of cancels each other out, you would have to say. The Frappa coffee was invented in Greece. Crazy what you see here. Apparently, geography and geology are also included on the list, and the globe. So yeah, Greek wrestling as well. There's one for you. So yeah, a lot of good inventions and technologies have came out of Greece. Finishing off the second stage there again, came third overall, so not overly competitive, but enough to get me through to the end, you would have to say. Again, I never really bothered looking at, you know, my tyres or my exhaust or spending money to upgrade them. What's the name of this place? Embersos, Greece. There's a place called Emburios, maybe just spelled differently. See a bit the more mountainous terrain in the background here. I'm not sure if we had a night stage in New Zealand at all. I don't think we did. So Greece might be the first time we see a night stage, which is kind of off-putting. I'm not sure it was meant to function like that on the original PlayStation hardware, but when you're running things on an emulator, sometimes the graphics just have an odd effect to them that you can't quite work out how to correct. Do enjoy these courses where you just have to kind of throw it right and left on the turns. It gets so satisfying when you manage to, you know, keep that central line and hold up your speed. And I kind of, now that I think about it, one of the other things I really enjoyed about the Colin McRae games was there weren't any other cars on the track to race against. It was just kind of you against the track, and there was kind of more of an appeal to that. Especially when you're talking about racing for times, you know. I mean, as fun as something as a Mario Kart is, it just kind of descends into a bit of chaos rather than just trying to, you know, hit the right racing line. And you know, there's room for both. I'm a huge fan of well, I mean, Mario Kart is good. I'm not going to say it's not, but I kind of preferred the Crash Team Racing personally. That was the one that I cut my teeth on multiplayer wise. So I would say I had a better time with that. But maybe a little bit of Road Rash. I don't really remember playing Road Rash multiplayer. And it certainly, Monkey Ball would be another monkey race in Monkey Ball. Shout out to Peggy Mitchell. Not a lot of people will get that reference there, but not setting good times in this stage at all, really. First one I was okay, got into the green. I'm not sure if that just means like from position 1 though. I think green means you literally were the fastest. So, you know, I remember saying in the last video some of the times that Colin himself sets. They are, well, you can see he's only in second place, but you know, it is really not that I'm particularly taking great racing lines or whatever with these ones, but it's difficult to get a good time going and be consistent. A driving game like this is not so much about just nailing 3 corners; it's about just consistently not slipping up. So I had to take that approach, especially in Sweden. kind of just flying all over the place here, not particularly professionally. Well, I took that corner well, leading up to the finish line. I finished in 3rd place, which I suppose is enough to carry us through. Greece itself has a Mediterranean climate, featuring mild to cool wet winters and hot dry summers. And it's known as being a very touristy country. I'd kind of like to visit, I suppose. There's a lot of ancient history associated with Greece. They'd be interesting, but the climate itself, I think the heat would maybe be a bit crazy for me. I wouldn't be maybe able to handle that. Greece, of course, known for Mount Olympus, which is the highest mountain in Greece, and is associated with things like Clash of the Titans, and of course, all the Greek gods are fairly well known, such as Mars and Neptune. I think they're the gods of war and the sea, respectively. Greece's military are called the Hellenic Armed Forces. I'm fascinated with this Hellenic word. I hadn't learned it until today, and I didn't really realise that was a way that they refer to themselves. They went through a debt crisis in the 2010s, Greece. Remember that being a sort of a lot of talk on the news. And they've obviously got like a big maritime industry with having so many islands. 20% of their gross domestic product comes through tourism. So of course, a lot of people, because of the weather and the history, it's a great combination that makes people want to go and visit. So some famous people from Greece that you might have heard of. Well, there's two very, very ancient names that will be familiar to some: Alexander the Great and Aristotle. Aristotle was, of course, a philosopher, ancient Greek philosopher. Came out with quotes such as "Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom," and "Patience is bitter, but its fruit is sweet." Alexander the Great, of course, was a king of ancient Greece around about 330 BT. I think he was made king at the age of 20, which is pretty crazy. In terms of more modern Greek people, honestly, no one really springs to mind. I'm not too familiar with the Greek culture. I suppose most of the people I would know from Greece would probably be footballers. So there'd be the likes of Georgios Samaras, who played for Celtic, played in the Scottish Premier League. He had retired a few years ago, I would imagine. So there was also Greece won the Euro 2004, and I remember that kind of being a huge deal at the time, since especially as a Scottish person, they were considered a small nation who kind of fought against the odds. And I vividly remember kind of watching the final at a friend's house with that one. I think they played Portugal in the final. It would have been back when Cristiano Ronaldo was only like 17 or so. And some of the names, although they have a beautiful ring to them, difficult for me to pronounce in my British tongue. But there was Antonios Nicopolidis. I remember him. He was the goalkeeper with the kind of grey hair. Angelo Bassinas. I remember him as well. He had kind of a high hairline. Stelios Giannakopoulos, who also played for Bolton Wanderers. I remember him. He was bald. He was a nice little kind of combative midfielder. And I think, who was the guy who got the goals for them? Let's just check it out, because I'm sure they scored just a single goal in the final. It would have been a header from a corner, if I remember properly. And we're flying through the stages for Greece here. I think we've only got just the two to go, and maybe the special stage after that. But yeah, the Euro 2004 final, which was on 4th of July 2004. And the only scorer in that game was... just scrolling down to find it. I'm not sure how you say this exactly. It's Angelos Charistias, or Charistias. I'm not really sure how you say that. But I remember he was like a big, tall, lanky striker, and he would just like the Greece would just defend like hell, and then kind of all throughout the tournament eventually get corners and maybe penalties, although you don't get as many penalties back then as you did in the modern game with VAR and so on. So that was probably my most knowledge of like Greek people, really. Although I suppose there's people with Greek descent in them, like George Michael of the band Faith and of his solo material, who you have to admit is a beautiful man no matter which way you swing. Other famous people defended from Greeks. Jennifer Aniston apparently defended from Greeks. Tina Fey. Prince Philip, of course, had Greek blood in him. Philip. Prince Philip. Elizabeth. Husband of Queen Elizabeth II, just died, well, a while ago now, about 2.5 years ago now. But he was actually born in Greece. He was born in Monripos, Corfu. Corfu, of course, being an island that a lot of people go to, you know, one of their first kind of experiences holidaying, lads' holidays, that kind of thing. But I was never too bothered about that kind of holiday as a young one. Of course, there's a lot of things set in Greece because it's got such a sort of traditional history, I suppose. Games set in Greece, including the Age of Empires games. Altered Beast was set in Greece. Daikatana, there's one that people don't talk about much these days. God of War as well. Apparently parts of the Kingdom Hearts games were set in Greece, which sounds pretty crazy, but I could believe that. And of course there's been a lot of films set in Greece as well. Shirley Valentine, there's a weird reference that you won't hear every day. The In-Betweeners, I remember In-Betweeners movie, they go on holiday to Greece. 300, of course, set in ancient Greece. That This is Sparta! Which was a brilliant film to watch once. I think I saw that on DVD at my friend Kevin's house, probably a year or two after it came out, and never again since. Mamma Mia as well, set in Greece. That's they're holidaying on the island when the plot all kicks off for that one. So yeah, I think you would count Clash of the Titans as well. Clash of the Titans, yeah, that was set in Greece. I always forgot they did a 2010 remake of that, which I've never took the chance to sit down and watch, and I doubt I ever will, to be honest. Jason and the Argonauts as well, I would imagine. It doesn't say it is Jason and the Argonauts. I think that's more of a fantasy thing than an actual real. Oh well, no, it's based on a Greek king, Peleus, Thessaly, killing King Aristo. So yeah, Jason and the Argonauts was all based on Greek kind of lore as well, if you want to call it that. That was a great film, Jason and the Argonauts. I really enjoyed that as a child. Mamma Mia, the sequel, obviously as well, also set in Greece. And I think this is the final stage now that we're on. Just it should be the final stage and the fairly short special stage to go. Raiders of the Lost Ark, yeah, of course, that would be a section of that set in Greece as well. And there's a film called The Trip to Greece, which obviously is also included. Oh, it stars, directed by Michael Winterbottom, starring Alan Partridge. Well, Alan Partridge is Stephen Coogan and Rob Brydon. Ah, that must be an extension of the TV show The Trip. I really did enjoy that. I didn't realise they made a feature film out of it. I would probably give that a watch. The Trip was an underrated show. I really did quite enjoy that. Basically, Rob Brydon and Steve Coogan playing comedy versions of themselves, or fictionalised versions of themselves, I should say, as they review various eating establishments throughout. Well, Britain at first, but then they do a version in Italy and then obviously Greece as well. The Bourne Identity set in Greece. That was a boring movie. I can't say I enjoyed that one. I just found those films just overly complex. It's just not the time for it. So, yep, coming up to these this last few runs or last few corners on this, what I imagine is this last stage here. Managed to set a few green times for this stage, but nothing extraordinary. I'm in second place, just behind Colin. And oh, I can just hear my chicken and chips popping off in the air fryer. Set those on to cook just before jumping on to record a bit of commentary for the second part of Colin McRae here. So yeah, up to now I've played up to the first 5 stages, which is Monte Carlo after this one, and I think it's Australia, and then Sweden after that, which took me 2 goes, which wasn't ideal. And I think after that we have is it Corsica, the UK, and Indonesia. I think are the final stages for Colin McRae. There's I think there's 54 stages spread throughout 8 levels, or 8 countries would be the better way to say that. So end the stage just less than a second behind old Colin himself there, so kind of happy with that actually. Really decent time I'm putting in for these stages. And get a quick look at my my loadout there, but nothing really to get changed. Yeah, we've got the special stage here. Only 1.7 kilometers long, so the special stages in the Colin McRae games didn't seem to have too much to them. It's you racing against one another individual, but you're separated by that barrier in the middle. Although I think I found this one pretty difficult. Like it seemed like just no matter what you did, you couldn't get ahead of the computer's times. Nice Nicky there to warn me of the little splash. Not the best corner there. Dragged it a little wide coming into it. So as I've said, it is nice to have the co-commentator giving you the information for the corners coming up, not just the audio information, the actual arrows coming up, giving you the severity of the corners. I don't think it was until Forza on the Xbox 360 where I first played a driving game that actually gave you physical racing lines on top of the track. And I actually remember having a lot of fun with Forza 2. That had a bit more of a kind of sporting dynamic to it, a bit more gamey, in that you could get points for power sliding or taking turns smoothly or maintaining full speed, that kind of thing. But it was kind of interesting. I don't think they had racing lines in any games on the PlayStation 2. I'd have to go back and kind of see what the story is with that one. First racing games to have racing. Need for Speed, maybe? Oh, the Giant Bomb wiki has it has a wiki page for driving line. Apparently appeared in Ford Racing 3, then Forza Motorsport, then Forza Motorsport 2. Well, there you go. As early as 2004. Anyway, that's been my race for Greece. Came in 3rd place behind McRae, obviously number 1, skidding around the corner there, and that Jay Clisson guy, who was looking competitive in New Zealand. But that's been enough for the Greece portion, and I'll be back next time, I think, with Monte Carlo. So thanks for watching, and catch you next time.